Hi all, in this lecture I am going to discuss about the topic air pollution. Air pollution is a mixture of solid particles and gases in the air. Car emissions, chemicals from factories, dust, pollen and mold spores may be suspended as particles. Gas is a major part of air pollution in cities. When ozone form air pollution, it's also called smog. Some air pollutants are poisonous. Air pollution is a result of industrial and certain domestic activity and ever increasing use of fossil fuels in power plants, industries, transportation, mining, and construction of buildings, stone quarries had led to air pollution. It may be defined as the presence of any solid, liquid, or gaseous substance including noise, radioactive radiation in the atmosphere in such concentration that may be directly and indirectly injurious to humans or other living organisms, plants, property, or interferes with the normal environmental processes. Air pollution is the presence of substances in the atmosphere that are harmful to the health of humans and other living beings or cause damage to the climate or to materials. So many different types of air pollutants such as gases and particulates and biological molecules. Air pollution may cause disease, allergies, and even death to humans. It may also cause harm to other living organisms such as animal and food crops and may damage the natural environment. For example, climate change, ozone depletion. Next, air pollutants are of two types suspended particulate matter and gaseous pollutants like carbon dioxide. And particulate air pollutants and their cause and effects are first pollutant suspended particulate matter or dust. The sources smoke from domestic, industrial, and vehicular soot. The effect depends on specific composition, reduces sunlight and visibility, and increase corrosion, asthma, and also cancer. Then fly ash. If the pollutant is fly ash, and then the source part of smoke released from chimneys or factories and power plants. Its effect is settles down on vegetation and houses, adds to the suspended participate matter in the air. Next, history of air pollution. The origin of air pollution on the earth can be traced from the times when man started using firewood as a means of cooking and heating. Hippocrates has mentioned air pollution in 400 BC. With the discovery and increasing use of coal, air pollution became more pronounced, especially in urban areas. It was recognized as a problem 700 years ago in London in the form of smoke pollution, which prompted King Edward to make the first anti pollution law to restrict people from using coal for domestic heating in the year 1273. And in the year 1300, another act banning the use of coal was passed. The earliest recorded major disaster was the London smog that occurred in 1952 that resulted in more than 4,000 deaths due to accumulation of air pollutions over the city for 5 days. Air pollution had become a harsh consequence of industrial growth across the country and the world, and states began passing legislation to reduce air pollution. It began to increase in the beginning of the 20th century with the development of the transportation systems and large scale use of petrol and diesel. The severe air quality problems due to the formation of photochemical smog from the combustion residues of diesel and petrol engines were felt for the first time in Los Angeles, and the pollution due to auto exhaust remains serious environmental issue in many developed and developing countries, including India. The Air Pollution Control Act in India was passed in 1981 and the Motor Vehicle Act for controlling the air pollution very recently. These laws are intended to prevent air from being polluted. The greatest industrial disaster leading to serious air pollution took place in Bhopal, where extremely poisonous methyl isocyanate gas was accidentally released from the Union Carbide pesticide manufacturing plant on the night of December 3rd, 1984. The effect of this disaster on human health and the soil are felt even today. Air pollution is caused by solid and liquid particles and certain gases that are suspended in the air. These particles and gases can come from car and truck exhaust, factories, dust, pollen, mold spores, volcanoes, and the wildfires. And the solid and the liquid particles suspended in our air are called aerosols. Next is structure of the atmosphere. The atmosphere is comprised of layers based on temperature. These layers are the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, and thermosphere. A further region at about 500 km above the Earth's surface is called exosphere. The atmosphere is normally composed of 79% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, and 1% as a mixture of carbon dioxide, water vapor, and trace amounts of several other gases such as neon, helium, methane, hydrogen, and xenon. The general structure of the atmosphere has several important features that have relevance to environmental problems. The atmosphere is divided into several layers. The tropopause marks the end of the troposphere and the beginning of the stratosphere. The second layer of the atmosphere and the stratosphere extends from 17 to 48 kilometers above the Earth's surface. While the composition of the stratosphere is similar to that of troposphere, it has two major differences. The volume of water vapor here is about 1000 times less, while the volume of ozone is about 1000 times greater. And the presence of ozone in the stratosphere prevents about 99% of the sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation from reaching the Earth's surface, thus protecting humans from cancer and damage to the immune system. This layer does not have clouds and hence airplanes fly in this layer as it creates less turbulence. And the temperature rises with altitude in the stratosphere until there is another reversal. This point is called the stratopause. It marks the end of the stratosphere and the beginning of the atmosphere's next layer, the mesosphere. Troposphere is considered as the lowest layer of the Earth's atmosphere, and it starts at the surface of the Earth and goes up to a height of 7 to 20 kilometer. And all weather occurs within this layer. This layer has water vapor and mature particles, and temperature decreases at the rate of 1 degree Celsius for every 165 meter of height. Tropopause separates troposphere and stratosphere. Next to the stratosphere is the second layer of the atmosphere found above the troposphere. It extends up to 50 km of height. This layer is very dry as it contains little water vapor. This layer provides some advantages for flight because it is above stormy weather and has steady, strong horizontal winds. And the ozone layer is found in this layer. The ozone layer absorbs UV rays and safeguards Earth from harmful radiation. Stratopause separates stratosphere and mesosphere. Next, mesosphere. Mesosphere is found above the stratosphere. It's the coldest of the atmospheric layer. It starts at 50 km above the surface of Earth and goes up to 85 km. The temperature drops with altitude in this layer and meteors burn up in this layer. The upper limit is called mesopause. It separates mesosphere and thermosphere. The next is thermosphere. This layer is found above mesopause from 80 to 400 km. And the radio waves that are transmitted from the earth are reflected by this layer. The temperature increases with height, and the ionosphere, the lower thermosphere, is called ionosphere. The exosphere is the outermost layer of the atmosphere. It extends from the top of the thermosphere up to 10,000 kilometers. Types and sources of air pollution. Air pollution occurs due to the presence of undesirable solid or gaseous particles in the air in quantities that are harmful to human health and the environment. Air may get polluted by natural causes such as volcanoes, which release ash, dust, and sulfur and other gases, or by forest fires that are occasionally naturally caused by lightning. However, unlike pollutants from human activity, naturally occurring pollutants tend to remain the atmosphere for a short time and do not lead to permanent atmospheric change. Pollutants that are emitted directly from identifiable sources are produced both by natural events, for example, dust storms and volcanic eruptions, and human activities such as emission from vehicle, industries, etc. These are called primary pollutants. And there are five primary pollutants that together contribute about 90% of the global air pollution. These are carbon dioxides, nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, volatile organic compounds, and suspended particulate matter. Pollutants that are produced in the atmosphere when certain chemical reactions take place among the primary pollutants are called secondary pollutants. Example, sulfuric acid, carbonic acid, etc. And the carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless, and toxic gas produced when organic materials such as natural gas, coal, or wood are incompletely burned. Vehicular exhaust are the single largest source of carbon monoxide. The number of vehicles has been increasing over the years all over the world. Vehicles are also poorly maintained, and several have inadequate pollution control equipment, resulting in release of greater amount of carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is, however, not a persistent pollutant. Natural processes can convert carbon monoxide to other compounds that are not harmful. Therefore, the air can be cleared of its carbon monoxide if no new carbon monoxide is introduced in the atmosphere. And the next is sulfur oxide, are produced when sulfur containing fossil fuels are burned. Next, gaseous air pollutant, the source and effect. The pollutant, carbon compound. Then the sources are automobile exhaust, burning of wood and coal, harmful effect, greenhouse effect. Then sulfur compound. Then the source are power plant and volcanic eruptions, and the harmful effect, loss of chlorophyll in plant. And if it is nitrogen compound, then sources are motor vehicle exhaust, atmospheric reaction, and the harmful effect, irritation in eyes and lungs, and acid rain damage material. And if it is hydrocarbons, then the source are automobiles and petroleum industries. And the harmful effect are respiratory problem and also cancer causing properties. Next, particulates are small pieces of solid materials and it dispersed into the atmosphere. The effects of particulates range from soot to the carcinogenic cancer causing effect of dust particles and ash from industrial plants that are dispersed into the atmosphere. And the lead is a major air pollutant that remains largely unmonitored and is emitted by vehicles. And the high lead levels have been reported in the ambient air in metropolitan cities. And the pollutants are also found indoors from infiltration of polluted outside air and from various chemicals used for produced inside building. Both indoor and outdoor air pollutions are equally harmful. Next, what happens to pollutants in the atmosphere? Once pollutants enter the troposphere, they are transported downwind, diluted by the large volume of air, transformed through either physical or chemical changes, or are removed from the atmosphere by rain, during which they are attached to water vapor that subsequently form rain or snow that falls to the earth's surface. The atmosphere normally disperses pollutant by mixing them in the very large volume of air that covers the earth. This dilutes the pollutants to acceptable level. Burning fossil fuels releases gases and chemicals into the air, and in an especially destructive feedback loop, air pollution not only contributes to climate change but is also exacerbated by it. Air pollution in the form of carbon dioxide and methane raises the Earth's temperature, and the removal mechanism include absorption by vegetation, soil, stone, and water bodies. Topography normally, as the Earth's surface becomes warmed by sunlight, the layer of air in contact with the ground is also heated by convection, and this warmer air is less dense than the cold air above it. So it rises. Thus, pollutants produced in the surface layer are effectively dispersed. Meteorological conditions. The velocity of wind affects the dispersal of pollutants. Strong winds mix polluted air more rapidly with the surrounding air, diluting the pollutants rapidly. When wind velocity is low, mixing takes place and concentration of pollutants remain high. When sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides are transported by prevailing winds, they form secondary pollutants such as nitric acid vapor, droplets of sulfuric acid, and particles of sulfate and nitrate salt. These chemicals descend on the Earth's surface in two forms, wet and dry. Wet such as acid rain, snow, fog, and cloud vapor, and the dry as acidic particles. The resulting mixture is called acid deposition, commonly called acid rain. And the next is effects of air pollution on living organism. Our respiratory system has a number of mechanisms that help in protecting us from air pollution. The air in our nose filters out large particles, and the sticky mucus in the lining of the upper respiratory tract captures smaller particles and dissolves some gaseous pollutants. When the upper respiratory system is irritated by pollutants, sneezing and coughing expel contaminated air and mucus. Prolonged smoking or exposure to air pollutants can overload or break down these natural defenses, causing or contributing to disease such as lung cancer, asthma, chronic bronchitis, and emphysema. Cigarette smoking is also responsible for the greatest exposure to carbon monoxide. Exposure to air containing even 0.007% of carbon monoxide for several hours can cause collapse, coma, and even death. As carbon monoxide remains attached to hemoglobin in blood for a long time, it accumulates and reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of blood. This impairs perception and thinking, slows reflexes, and causes headache, drowsiness, dizziness, and nausea. And carbon monoxide in heavy traffic causes headache and also drowsiness. Blood vision. Sulfur dioxide irritates respiratory tissues, and chronic exposure causes a condition similar to bronchitis. And nitrogen oxide, especially NO2, can irritate the lung and also asthma, chronic, and also increase susceptibility to respiratory infection. Many volatile organic compounds such as benzene and formaldehyde and toxic particulates cause mutation and reproductive problems or cancer. Prevention and control of air pollution. First, indoor. air pollution, then prevention and control of indoor air pollution, prevention and control of industrial pollution, and control of vehicular pollution. Indoor air pollution, poor ventilation due to faulty design of building leads to pollution of the confined space. Paints, carpets, furniture, etc. in rooms may give out volatile organic compounds. Use of disinfectants may release hazardous gases. And in hospital, pathogens present in waste remain in the air in the form of spores. This can result in hospital acute infection. And also next, prevention and control of indoor air pollution, use of wood and dung cakes should be replaced by cleaner fuels such as biogas, kerosene or electricity. But supply of electricity is limited. And the house design should incorporate a well ventilated kitchen, use of biogas and CNG, compressed natural gas, need to be encouraged. Next, prevention and control of industrial pollution. Use of cleaner fuels such as liquefied natural gas, in power plant, fertilizer plant, etc. And employing environment friendly industrial processes so that emission of pollutants and hazardous waste is minimized. Next, control of vehicular pollution. The emission standards for automobiles have been set, which is followed will reduce the pollution standard have been set for the durability of catalytic converters, which reduce vehicular emission. And the price of diesel is much cheaper than petrol, which promotes use of diesel to reduce emission of sulfur dioxide. Sulfur content in diesel has been reduced to 0.05%. To ozone depletion, what does it do? Changes in the ozone layer have serious implication for mankind. Effects on human health, food protection, effects on material, effects on human health, sunburn, and aging of the skin and skin cancer also are also caused by increased ultraviolet radiation. And the food protection, ultraviolet radiation affect the ability of plant to capture light energy during the process of photosynthesis. This reduces the nutrient content and growth of plant. And the next, the plant and animal plankton are damaged by ultraviolet radiation. And the effect on material is increased UV radiation damage paints and fabrics, causing them to fade faster. Effect on climate is atmospheric change induced by pollution contribute to global warming, a phenomena which is caused due to the increasing concentration of certain gases like carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, methane. And the observation of the Earth has shown beyond doubt that atmospheric constituents such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, and also chlorofluorocarbons trap heat in the form of infrared radiation near the Earth's surface. This is known as greenhouse effect. The phenomenon is similar to what happens in a greenhouse, and the gas in greenhouse allows a solar radiation to enter, which is absorbed by the objects inside. So this object radiate heat in the form of terrestrial radiation and which does not pass out through the gas to the glass, and the heat is therefore trapped in the greenhouse, increasing the temperature inside and ensuring the luxuriant growth of plant. Next, air pollution in India. Air pollution in India is a serious health issue. Of the 30 most polluted cities in the world, 21 were in India in 2019. And as per a study based on 2016 data, at least 140 million people in India breathe air, that is 10 times or more over the WHO, World Health Organization. The World Health Organization, which rates only mega cities of the world, has rated Delhi the fourth most polluted city in the world. However, compared to other cities in India, Delhi is not at the top of the list of polluted cities. Our country has several pollution hotspots. The recent release from the Central Pollution Control Board, 51% of pollution is caused by industrial pollution and 27% by vehicles and 17% by crop burning and 5% by fireworks. Air pollution contributes to the premature deaths of 2 million Indians every year. Emissions come from vehicles, industry, whereas in rural area, much of the pollution stems from biomass burning for cooking and keeping warm. In 2013, a study on non-smokers has found that Indians have 30% weaker lung function than Europeans. 2015, Government of India, together with IIT Kanpur, launched the National Air Quality Index. And in 2019, India launched the National Clean Air Program with tentative national target of 20% to 30% reduction. What are the sources of India's polluted air? Fuel used for domestic stoves is usually made from a wet mixture of pieces of wood and dried animal dung, and this is fashioned into discs and dried in the sunshine. When it is burned in the stoves, it produces smoke and other pollutant, 5 times higher than if coal were burned. It is thought that in excess of 100 million households uses these stoves up to 3 times a day, 7 days a week, and electricity or other clean fuels are not available in many remote areas. Even in cities where electricity available, it is a traditional to use these types of stove, and 20% of city pollutants are attributed to such habits. And also, some Indian auto rickshaws and taxis run on fuel that has been adulterated by other cheaper ingredients. This is a common occurrence in all of South Asia. Air quality management as well defined program has yet to emerge in India. We need a much more strengthened air quality management with continuous monitoring of air if we are to have a better quality of air. This would also need an integrated approach with strict air pollution control laws. Some of the suggestions for doing this include improving the quality of vehicular fuel and increasing the use of renewable energy and reducing the use of fossil fuels and also putting a greater emphasis on pollution prevention rather than control. Okay, thank you.